Surf4Cars.
Hey, I'm Louise, and I'm looking for a sexy new ride, but I actually have absolutely no idea of what to think about when buying a car. I know that in my naivety, I'm likely to commit to anything some dodgy salesman is going to try to sell me, and therefore I'll probably walk away with the proverbial lemon. There's a reason the words car salesman conjure up this image of a greasy, no-good sleazeball. While this isn't necessarily a fair stereotype, I mean, there are a lot of fantastic salespeople out there that are decent and hardworking. It is a stereotype for a reason. When buying a car, it can be hard to separate the facts from the sales pitch.
You're not buying a car purely for the first month, second month, first year. You need to understand, if you're financing a car over 60 months, you may not drive the car to term, but your lifestyle may change in the first year or the second year. So you need to understand the situation you're in right now. Kids may come along, relationships may come and go.
Absolutely.
So you can't make a short-term decision in buying a car. So you need to put that in the back of your mind. It's not going to be, first and foremost, but take into account that at some point you might need to change the car for whatever reason.
So what are the key things? I've done a needs analysis. I sort of understand what car I need. What are the, three or four key things that I need to think about when I go into the dealer, got an idea?
I'll tell you what the first thing to do is. Most guys wait until they get into the dealership before they understand their credibility or their credit worthiness.
Okay.
What you can do is you can get pre-arranged finance in place. So if your bankers are FNB or they're Standard Bank, whatever the story may be, you go to that particular lending division like Westbank in the case of FNB.
Yeah.
So apply for finance with Westbank. Understand what Westbank are prepared to lend you. Understand the kind of rate you may or may not be getting on your purchase. When you walk into the dealership, there's no point going into dealership and looking at an 800 grand car if your affordability is 200 grand, because you're going to waste your time more than anybody else's. You can't waste the dealer's time. The dealer does this for a living. What you need to understand is, from an affordability point of view, the kind of car you're going to be looking at.
Okay. So there's affordability.
Affordability is everything. Bearing in mind, again, as we said, you've got a car payment of X, plus don't forget your running costs.
Okay.
And again, buying a car, and we'll address this later on, but again, buying a car, if you're buying a car with a full service plan, with a full maintenance plan, it allows you to have a finite cost. So you know you're servicing your car for nothing. So if something breaks, the manufacturer will pick up the servicing costs.
So now I'm looking at a car in the dealer. How do I understand that that car is worth purchasing? How do I know it's not the dealer just saying to me, oh, this is a fantastic car, when really it's not?
Well, again, in terms of the needs analysis, you might do a needs analysis on yourself, but also at some point in your needs analysis, you're going to understand the kind of car you want to buy. So you're going to understand you want a manual or an auto, petrol or diesel, 3-door, 5-door, station wagon, whatever your choice may be. But in terms of servicing, there are manufacturers that offer standard warranties and or motor plans, service plans on the car for a fixed period of time. So if you look at BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, they all have various different plans. 5-year, 100,000 kilometers is a standard service plan with Audi or BMW. So you understand for 5 years or 100,000 kilometers, the car's going to be serviced and looked after by the manufacturer. So if you're buying a 2-year-old car, 5 less 2 is 3, so you've got 3 years left in terms of period.
But how do I know that they've serviced that? How do I check?
The beauty is every single car on a service plan that you're going to buy is going to come with a full manufacturer's service history. So it's going to be serviced by the agents only. You can only service it. That's the book. Now the service book, again, and we'll touch on it later. We're touching on a lot of stuff up front.
Yeah.
Excuse me while I do that.
It's fine.
What you need to understand, when you're buying a vehicle, the maintenance plan is such a big portion of the purchase price. Dealers will charge a premium for a car that's on a service plan. A car with no plan or no warranty will obviously sell for slightly less because it doesn't have that kind of backup and guarantee on it.
Okay.
So you'll spot that dealers will always use the service plan as a big advertising tool.
Yeah.
All cars are advertised with balance of manufacturer's service plan. That's a big selling point on motor vehicles.
So that's something that I should be looking at.
Always. But again, depending on budget. Okay. Most vehicles at over 100 or 150,000 rand will have some form of service plan left on the car, again, depending on which car you're buying. But if you're buying a car for 50, 60, 70,000 rand, 80,000 rand, you're very seldom going to find a car with any kind of service plan on it.
Okay, cool. So then I remember a while ago when I was actually looking for a secondhand car, I saw something called warranty.
Yeah.
Is that something I should be concerned about as well?
Well, again, warranty on a car, a warranty is unlike a service plan in terms of it doesn't pay for your servicing. But what it will do is it'll pay out a percentage of a claim. In the event you have a problem with an engine or a gearbox, the warranty company will underwrite a certain portion of the claim. So let's say your gearbox packs up when you go to a dealer, the guy gives you a quote for 25, 30,000 rand, the warranty company will pay you a portion of that claim, 50, 60, 70%, depending on the warranty company, depending on the mileage on the car, depending on the age of the car. So also warranties can be a real minefield in terms of understanding what you're buying and understanding what you're getting for the money you spend. So also a little bit complicated, but buying a car with no warranty and no service plan is almost financial suicide.
Okay, so those are two key things I need to
big things.
absolutely make sure.
Absolutely.
So not even like looking at oh well, that's a really nice car.
Yeah.
I need to go.
You need to dig deeper than really
nice car. Does it have
a
service? But does it have a service history or what? The service plan?
The service plan, the warranty, the manufacturer's service plan, all very important.
So I'm checking to see that okay, I buy a car that by a certain manufacturer that car was serviced by that manufacturer.
And only by the manufacturer.
Each time.
Absolutely.
So it's not good enough that it was serviced by someone else or just a general.
The problem with somebody unvetted by the manufacturer means that you can't guarantee the work they've carried out is either A, warranted, or B, was serviced up to the maximum. A 60,000 service, for example, is a lot more in depth than, say, a 10,000 service. Obviously, the more wear and tear on the car, the more items inevitably you're going to have to service. So you need to, and again, we're talking about the service book earlier on. When you're buying a vehicle, service books, and I say this with respect, women do the impulsive thing, run and buy a car. The little service book comes along, they go, great, it's got one, but they don't actually open it. Now, the service history will validate several things on the car. It'll tell you the age of the vehicle in terms of, is it a 2007, a 2009, and 2010. If you look on the front page of the service book, it'll tell you the day the car was delivered to the previous owner. That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing is it can validate the mileage. If it's got 60,000 Ks on the speedo and the car was last serviced 3 years ago, you need to start understanding how is it possible that the car's done so few kilometers in such a space of time. So the service book will validate the service history on the car.
What's actually been going on with that car.
Absolutely, in terms of mileage, and it'll back up whatever it says on the odometer will be stamped in the book.
So that's really the true indicator for me when I'm looking at a second-hand car that I'm considering buying.
Very much so. It adds authenticity to the purchase. Okay. So it's all about the credibility of the car that you buy.
So when I'm looking at a car, should I be concerned about selling it? I mean, it's a second-hand car. Do I need to be concerned? Is that something that's...
Very, very good point. And the one thing you need to understand is the day you buy your car, you're going to dictate your financial future. I mean, firstly, and we use the expression investment when it comes to buying a car. Believe me, there's no such thing as an investment in a motor vehicle. It's a depreciating asset. The longer you own it, the more it depreciates. It matters not what you buy, unless you're buying something massively collectible, very old. Every single production car in the world, not only in South Africa, in the world, suffers from depreciation. And some cars, have got huge depreciation. In the industry, they'll say it's got a depreciation curve like a hailstone. So it goes from 0 to hero almost immediately. So understand it's not an investment at any point. Okay. At any point, it's not an investment. What you want to do is limit your loss. So if you're paying 100,000 Rand for a motor vehicle, understand in a year's time that car might be worth 20 or 30% of what you've paid for your vehicle. So bear in mind, you take out fair wear and tear, you had use of the car, but 30% depreciation in year one, possibly between 20 and 30%. In year two, the depreciation curve slows down a little bit. By year 3, year 4, it's pretty much flatline. So the car's not depreciating at the same rate it did in the first 1 or 2 or 3 years. Okay. Even on a used car, it still depreciates.
All right.
But again, the beauty of a used car over a new car is huge. And in terms of, when we do a needs analysis and we look and why people buy used over new,
for those viewers who have just joined us, I'm Louise and I'm looking at buying a second-hand car, and I know absolutely nothing about that. So in my naivety, I'm fully willing to admit that I probably will commit to something dodgy just because I don't know what I'm doing. The reason the words car salesman conjure up this image of a greasy, no-good sleazeball, is because it's more often than not true. There are a lot of obviously very good salespeople out there that are decent and honest, but when buying a car, it often becomes very difficult to separate the facts from the sales pitch, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So with the help of my friends at Surf4Cars, and trust me, these guys really do care about what car I'm going to drive off with at the end of the day, we found this dodgy salesman who actually agreed to be honest with me tonight. So Nick's busy explaining to me all the things that I need to consider when buying a second-hand car and the questions I need to be asking my dealer, because a lot of people don't know these questions, and these aren't things that are readily available on the internet. So we've been discussing price and car, and so now I'm in the dealer.
Yeah.
I've gone to the bank.
Yes.
I understand, right, this is how much I can afford. This is how much they're willing, based on my credit history and my income, how much I'm willing to get.
Yes.
I understand that I need to look for a service book.
Yes.
I need to make sure that it's been properly serviced.
Yeah.
it's still on a service plan and a
Yes.
warranty ideally,
Yes.
and that it's not depreciating like a hailstone,
You're
as you
buying the
say.
right kind of car, absolutely.
Right. So now,
Well, firstly, let me tell you, just with that information, you've now probably got a 60 or 70% head start in terms of every other buyer out there. Most people have rushed in blindly, picked a nice color, picked a nice shape, and that's them committed to the deal.
Right.
So you've now done all the homework that's needed in order to buy
So
this
I've got a good
depreciating
foundation.
asset. Absolutely.
Great.
And, you know, use the word foundation. If I look at the time and effort people spend on buying property, which is an appreciating asset, and then I compare it to the time and effort they spend on a depreciating asset like a car, it's frightening. Guys will make an impulsive decision on a depreciating asset far quicker than they will on an appreciating asset. So the same kind of time and effort people put into buying a house, they really should be putting into buying a car, because, you know, there is no equity in a car.
It can ruin you.
Well, it can ruin you, and it can ruin you quickly. And for the first-time car buyers, you know, if somebody goes out there and buys a 100,000 rand vehicle and buys the wrong car at the right price, it becomes very difficult to trade out of that problem. You end up inheriting that problem, and you're rolling negative equity. Let me tell you what negative equity is. You buy a car for 100 grand, you drive it for 2 years, you get off at 60, you owe 70. Your next purchase, you've got to load the 10,000 rand onto your next purchase. Now you're financing negative equity, which means you're overpaying for your next purchase because you made a mistake with your first one. And then
So it's like a continuous cycle that you're just going to struggle to get out of.
It's a perpetuating cycle of negative equity, and you're paying interest on the negative equity on a depreciating asset. So it becomes very, very difficult to bear.
Okay, so now I just want to understand. I have an existing car, so by the time I'm in the dealer, what am I going to do with this existing car? Do I go flog it off somewhere else? Do I sell it on
Surf4Cars?
On Surf4Cars?
Yeah, great way to sell it, yeah.
Or what is the best way for me to get rid of that car and get a new car? How does that a trade-in process work?
The trade-in process is probably one of the biggest influences in terms of, you know, how you're going to trade out of your product. The first thing you need to understand is the dealer buying your car is as much as a buyer for your car as you as a buyer for him, for his car. So you drive into a dealership, the first thing they're going to do is have a look at your car. Now what dealers do is they look at what you're driving, and what they try and do is determine what you're going to be buying. You know, you can tell a lot about a person by the car that they drive, in terms of what they've spent, how they've driven it, how they've looked after it, and all of those good things. So they profile you based on the one known quantity in you, which is the car you're currently driving. So they benchmark you based on what you've come in. So they look at your car and say it's a 50 grand car, fine. So now they're guessing you're going to upgrade, you're going to spend maybe 100. And they're going to look at how you've treated your car, the mileage on your car, and the general condition.
Okay.
Now, a couple of nice tricks of the trade, and I say tricks of the trade because really this makes a difference. If you drive in with a vehicle that's not washed, with no petrol in it, that hasn't had a service forever and ever, every light on the dashboard, all over the show, hairbrushes in the back, and all the other bits and pieces that come with a Friday night out, the dealer's going to clearly not look at that car favorably. Now understand, when you're taking your vehicle into a dealer to be appraised, you're selling him a car.
Yeah.
Forget the fact you're there to buy a car. Now you're all about selling him the asset that you currently own. So like the car you're buying, you need to make sure the car you're trading in looks stunning.
So you're saying that when I'm coming in and I'm being sold to,
yes,
I should actually think of myself as a salesperson of my own goods?
Well, you are a salesperson of your own goods. It's not a debate. You're there to sell your car. The guy's going to buy your car, but he's buying your car, remember?
Yes.
He's selling you the new car,
yes,
your replacement car,
yes,
but he's buying your car.
So the better that is, the better it is, the better that car appears.
Without question. And turn yourself now, for that period, into a dealer.
Yes.
So firstly, first impressions are everything, as you know. So when you drive up onto the dealer forecourt, the car that you're currently driving needs to look like it was born yesterday. Everything you can do within your powers without spending stupid money. I'm not saying overcapitalize on your car, which means don't go and put 4 brand new tires on it. Don't go and fix every dent and scratch.
Unless I'm driving on ball tires.
Well, if you're driving on ball tires, remember the dealer's going to deduct that from the value of the car. But little things, this is the good tip. If you've got a chipped windscreen or a cracked windscreen, for example, you're insured. An insurance claim on your windscreen is going to cost you the excess, which is 150 or 200 rand, 250 rand, 300 in some cases. When the dealer buys your car, he's deducting the full cost of the windscreen off the value, because he's got to go and buy a windscreen. He can't claim off insurance. So he's going to deduct 4,000 rand straight away off your car for a cracked screen. Now, you could save yourself the difference between your excess of 250, which will not affect your no-claim bonus, because windscreens do not fall under the no-claim bonus thing. So you can claim for a windscreen. But in terms of the overall presentation, there's nothing nicer than sitting in a car with an absolutely unchipped, unmarked windscreen. Beautiful.
It's a clear windscreen, yeah.
That's the first thing. So now you've fixed up the windscreen on the car. In terms of valeting it, you can spend 150, 250, 300 rand on a valet. That's not overcapitalizing. Yeah. When you roll in with the car again, as you've pointed out, you don't want airbrushes and bits and pieces lying all over the place. The car needs to look as if you got it delivered the day before. I wouldn't buy a car like that, so.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't buy a car like that, and that's exactly what you need to focus on. If you wouldn't buy it, why do you expect the dealer to buy it or pay you any proper money for it? They're still going to buy your car, make no mistake. But you want to get the maximum money you possibly can on the car you're trading in.
Of course, look after myself.
Service books, like you looking for service books, the dealer's looking for service books more so than you.
So losing my service book is definitely not an option.
If you drive in with a vehicle with no service book, the dealer's going to understand two things. Firstly, that you probably don't service your car as regularly as you should, because if you lost the book, you don't care enough about the asset. You don't care enough about the car.
About my property, yes.
Exactly. Yes. So your service book should be stamped as up to date as possible. If you've got any extra invoices of any money you've spent on the car, make sure they're in the service book. Do not, however, take panel beating bills and bits and pieces into the dealer. So if you've had a big smash in your car, resist the temptation to leave that in the books. I'm just saying, try and take those things.
Is that because the car wouldn't be as good afterwards?
I'm just saying that
my automatic instinct, it's been fixed. It's fine.
It has been fixed. It's not a bad way to go. From my 2 decades in the industry, I wouldn't take in a panel beating bill and say to the dealer, oh, by the way, I had an accident yesterday and this was the damage. I'd resist the temptation.
Okay.
So service books in your car are important. Spare keys where you've got, have them in the car. So just present your vehicle, again, as you've said, present your vehicle in the same way the dealer's presenting his vehicle to you. It will make a difference on your vehicle of 5 to 10 to 15%. You're going to get 5, 10, 15% more for the vehicle you're trading in than you would have done if you hadn't taken the time and effort to put it into the right kind of condition.
So now, I find a car, like, dealer's happy with my car.
Yes.
What is the process? What do I need to be aware of? Because to me,
okay.
I don't even know where to start now.
Okay, well, no, you've covered all the big tasks. You've done your needs analysis.
Yeah.
You understand what you can afford to buy. You've narrowed down your choice of cars. You've gone from station wagon, not for you, SUV, not for you, little 2-door convertible, absolutely for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you go. So now you're not going to look at 75 cars on the dealer's floor. You've used Surf4Cars. You've managed to find the car you'd like to buy. So you've chosen a specific brand, which has got the right engine size, bearing in mind, engine size, consumption.
Very important.
Hugely important, particularly in this
driving
economy.
A lot.
Massively so. So you don't want to buy a 4-litre V8 unless you're prone to that kind of thing. You've got a company petrol car, knock yourself out. But if you're funding fuel like the rest of us, you want to buy diesel. Used to be first choice all the time, maybe not so much anymore because of the price of diesel. It's unregulated. Petrol's regulated price. Petrol goes up all the time, we know that. But manage your overheads. You want a fixed running cost. As much as you can get a fixed running cost, you need to know what the car's going to cost you on petrol. Your big variable is not the price of the car or the HP.
It's the running.
It's the running cost. Maintenance and petrol.
So now I've picked a car.
Yes.
Good running costs, good maintenance.
Yes.
Say to the dealer, love it, want it.
Beautiful.
He says, love your car, happy to take it in.
Beautiful.
What's the first thing that I need to, or how do I?
Let's say you've taken a car on test drive now. So you've got in, you've picked the car you'd like. You're now sitting at the dealer's desk. This is the big ta-da-da close. So now the dealer's he's got a price advertised on the motor vehicle. Now, the motor industry is unlike any other retail industry. When you walk into a TV shop or a grocery store, you pay the price on the shelf, as a matter of course. For some strange reason, and I mean this with respect, for some strange reason, dealers naturally have to take less money than they've advertised their car for. For what reason, I don't know. People walk into dealerships that I happen to be managing, and immediately they say, what kind of discount can I get? Now, I've never heard a woman going to Pick n Pay and say, I can't believe these beans and Viennas are $7.50. I'll give you $5. Pick n Pay don't haggle. The TV guy doesn't haggle, but dealers are prepared to haggle. They build in a little bit of a margin to be able to negotiate. Okay, so understanding that the guy's got a little bit of margin built into his vehicle, you can get away with a few rand here, a little bit of wriggle room always. But manage your expectations. People go in and cavalierly throw out a price.
Chopping the price in half.
Well, completely. I mean, take it easy. Like any business, there's a margin cost. Some dealers make 10%, some make 8%. I want to dispel the myth that dealers make 50% on every car they sell. They don't come close. Your average dealer margin is between 6 and 10%. No matter what you're buying, whether you're buying an Aston or an Alpha or anything else, 8 to 10% is dealer margin on a car. So understanding that, you sit down with a guy, you've now presented him your car, you're loving life. He now presents the car that you've now driven, you've test drove the car, you're starting to commit to a price. So you might find 1 or 2 things on the vehicle you're not happy with. Maybe it needs a tire, and hopefully the dealer's got a car reconditioned to the point where it doesn't need any money spent on it whatsoever, in the ideal world.
Yeah, but say I notice a little dent or...
Well, if you notice, whatever you sit down and agree with the dealer at that point, they give you what's called an offer to purchase. So this is the first document you're going to see from a dealer, is the offer to purchase. They refer to it as the OTP. It's just an abbreviation of offer to purchase. Cool. So on the offer to purchase, it's going to have all your details. It's going to have all the details of the vehicle. So you want to make sure that the vehicle they've advertised is a 2005, 2006, 2007. the offer to purchase matches up with the car that you physically buy. Anything you agree with So your offer to purchase, highlight everything you'd like changed and or added and or subtracted from the car. Subtraction never happens, so it's about little scratches, little dents. You agree to it, you sign it, he signs to it, you commit yourself to the deal.
Missing tools I want replaced.
Missing tools you'd like replaced, absolutely.
Okay.
Service history up to date, all of those good things.
Okay, great.
The one little thing that a lot of people overlook, dealers shouldn't, but if your car's on an awkward mileage at a service interval, 15, 30, 45, 60.
So it's like in between service intervals?
It's about to need a service. Now this is it. So if your car's got 59,000 kilometers on, or 58 or 57, what you'd like to do is say to the dealer, listen, before I drive out, what I don't want to do is leave with this car and have to come back next week and service it at my cost. If it's on a service plan, it doesn't make any difference. If it's not on a service plan, what you'd like the dealer to do is service it at the next mileage interval. Most dealers do that as a matter of course. They do a pre-delivery service on cars, new or used.
But it is something I could miss if I'm not.
It's something you're going to miss, because if a dealer doesn't have to spend the money, he's not going to spend the money. So what you want to do is make sure that the last major service has been carried out, and if it's due a service in the next 1,000 or 2 or 3,000 Ks or 4,000 Ks, it wouldn't be completely unreasonable to have the dealer service the car, even if you split the bill. So if he never anticipated you asking the question and saying, listen, needs a 60K service. Now, 60,000 K service is a major service. 60, 80, 120, 140, 160. These are the service gaps that cost money. What you don't want to do is buy a car, get in, bugger off.
But 4,000 Ks just seems like so far.
What,
so is it
pulling the service forward?
Yeah.
Well, what you want to do is do a deal with a guy right there, with a dealer right there, and say to him, listen, the 60,000 K service is going to be due in 2 or 3,000 Ks. It's a big spend. Say to the dealer, I'll tell you what, service the car now. Okay, at 60,000 Ks. Remember, they won't service it if it's on a service plan. They don't need to.
Of course,
you don't have to worry.
Because I don't have to pay for it either.
But if you have to pay for it, right then, let them pull the service forward and meet them halfway in terms of the cost.
Okay.
So when you drive out of with the vehicle, you don't want to put 1 red cent into your car, ideally, no reconditioning in the first year of ownership. You're in for petrol, you're in for insurance, and you've paid for your car. What you don't want to do is 3 months down the line have to pay for a service, in the ideal world, if you can get away with it.
Okay, so if I know about that.
If you know about that.
All right, and are there any other things that people need to be aware of? One is if I buy a car, everything is written down, but somehow something's gone wrong. Is there any legal recourse I can take?
Listen, the legal recourse is tons now. The Consumer Protection Act is on the side of the consumer and on the side of the dealer. It's not just one-sided. But the Consumer Protection Act is a whole different cabaret. It's a whole different show in terms of discussing the ins and outs. But you need to know, if you're financing a vehicle, it's not your car, it's the bank's car. They will protect the asset. If you buy a vehicle that's not as described, or if a dealer sells you a car without disclosing any accident history or anything that would prejudice the sale of that vehicle, you can reverse that deal at any point. But again, that's a whole other show.
Thing,
yeah.
But it is,
but
just to know.
That's the law, absolutely. But understand, the minute you finance a vehicle,
yes,
you've got Westbank or Stanek or ABSA's attorneys at your beck and call, because it's their asset, it's not your asset. Until such time as you pay for the car, it's their car.
Okay.
So if they feel injured, and you're their client, if you're unhappy with the car, you phone ABSA, ABSA will phone the dealer.
So speaking of banks, finance-wise, do I go to my bank and speak to my banker and say, hey, listen, I found a car, or do I chat to the dealer about finance?
I'll tell you what I would do. The easiest way to do it, and the least time consuming, get onto Surf4Cars, log on to the Westbank portion of Surf4Cars, pick a number. So either put in 200,000 Rand, it'll automatically work a payment out for you. So if you want to finance your car for 48, 54, 60 months, 72, whatever the period may be, you log in your ideal profile in terms of how long you'd like to pay for the car. It'll give you a number that you can work around. It's a general number, but it's a pretty good number. So in your mind, if you're saying I've got 4,000 Rand a month to spend on a car, excluding running costs, okay, it'll spit out a number of 200, 205, 210. That's the kind of ballpark you're in at 4 grand. Yeah. So on that basis, you've got a pretty good idea as to what the car is going to cost you on a monthly basis before you go. Dealers have every bank on the floor. So if you go into an institute, if you go into a dealership, you'll have all the big major banks on the floor ready to service you. So they all want to, in the nicest possible way, ready to service you. They all want to look after your financial interests. So what you want to do is put yourself in a situation. They will handle the finance for you.
Yeah.
The one thing you need to understand, and this is the Consumer Protection Act and the National Credit Act has introduced this. In the old days, when I as a dealer was selling you a car, every accessory I sell you, I was making a second gross on. They call it a second gross. It's an added income. So I would sell you top up, life cover, all the bits and pieces. Now, when your contract is completed and you're signing for your vehicle, this is very important. When you're signing for your vehicle, every single second gross item that I've sold you has to be itemized. So you will know what the dealer's making on you in terms of finance, in terms of insurance, in terms of anything else. So it's full disclosure.
Okay.
So dealers tend to be well, dealers are all very honest. The Consumer Protection Act means dealers have
left little room for them to just
there's no room. There's no
room.
room anymore. Dealers have to disclose every single penny they make on the car, except the profit on the sale of the vehicle. But that's very important to remember. So have a look at when you're financing a car, look at the rate. Manage your expectations on the rate. Not everybody's going to get prime less too. The older the car you buy, the worse the interest rate.
Oh, really?
Always.
I thought the interest rate was just
the interest rate is based on the client, and it's based on the asset, and it's based on the deposit. Because the bank wants as much surety in a deal as they can possibly get.
Of course.
If you're buying a 7 or 8-year-old car, you're going to struggle, to get finance. Because if you want to finance a 7-year-old car over 5 years, that car's going to be 11 years old by the time you've paid for it. I don't know a bank that wants to go and repossess an 11-year-old car.
Of course, because you want to buy an 11-year-old
Exactly.
car.
So take that into account.
So I just want to recap the key points that you've highlighted with me here. So first thing to do, find out how much I can afford.
Yeah. Priority number one.
Priority number one.
Absolutely.
In terms, not only in terms of I can afford to pay 4,000 Rand a month, but also in terms of maintenance, in terms of insurance, petrol.
Yes.
Do parts come into it? I've never had to replace parts.
Wear and tear on a car. The one unbudgetable influence you have on a car. If you're buying a car with no service plan and no warranty, we talked about a warranty earlier on, the importance of a warranty. If you buy a vehicle with no warranty whatsoever, nothing, you've got no backup, no possible insurance in the event of a mechanical breakdown, you run the risk of a gearbox going on your car. So let's say you replace a gearbox on a standard motor vehicle. We're talking about across the range, cars up to 100,000 Rand as a used car.
Your average car.
35,000 Rand is the cost of doing an engine on a car, labor and parts. Now remember, not only is the bill 35,000 Rand, you've got to pay cash. You cannot finance a workshop. You can't go to the workshop and say, listen, I'm going to get a loan for 35 Rand. You're going to have to go and make your own payment. No bits and pieces. You can pay in bits and pieces, but you can only get your car back when you've paid off all the bits and pieces.
Yes.
So in order to get the bits and pieces in your car put together, you have to pay them one amount of money. So the biggest problem you have with a vehicle that you've got on finance, if you do not take a warranty, and I'm not saying take a warranty with every car you buy, but what I'm saying is this, your depreciating asset, you need to hedge your bets. If something breaks on the vehicle, understand you have to pay the entire bill on reconditioning that car in one hit out of cash flow, which you haven't made a provision for.
Of course.
Okay.
So budget is key.
Budget is very key.
So then finding a car, need to make sure it's firstly, so it's affordable.
Yeah.
It fits in my budget.
Yes.
So it's reliable in terms of the warranty, the parts, and then the service history. And then also I can resell it one day.
Resellability. Now resellability is in your needs analysis. And again, you walk into a dealership, you fancy a nice bright pink convertible, you get swapped, swept away in the whole rush. The thing is this, you need to understand, you need to buy a car somebody else would like to buy from you at the end of that period, normally a dealer. So when it comes to garish colors, they might look great in the brochure. You get the salmon pinks and the slightly off this and the slightly bright greens, these lovely colors. You drive out in a Kermit the Frog little two-door convertible, you're looking for a buyer market this big. I mean, you're going to have to find a gay hairdresser on the East Rand to be able to sell your car to. So you make the resale market very, very small. Oh, then you're laughing. I mean, then you're going to have to go back to Cape Town to sell your car. But what I'm saying is be very careful about the color you buy the car in.
What colors in South Africa should I be looking at? What are the most popular ones?
The color spectrum now is massive. When I started in this industry, you had a choice of 4 colors, red, white, silver, and black.
Well, I mean, I think I've seen every shade of every color on the road, but what colors should I be looking at when I'm buying my car? Well, to make sure that someone will want to buy it one day.
You're pretty safe, and I mean, far be it from me to disparage colors because it's an individual taste. But for example, if I offered you a burgundy Ferrari, you wouldn't be beating my door down for a burgundy Ferrari. Why not?
is burgundy.
Exactly. So whether you're buying a burgundy Ferrari or a burgundy Fiat, manage your expectations
Okay.
on the resellability of a burgundy anything.
Okay, but now I don't care about color. What colors should I be looking at?
Well, go with the whites. I mean, the white's the most practical color to buy in a car always. Some cars look good in white, some cars don't. Silver is the new white. Once you've had black, you'll never go back. We both know that. So black, the silvers. The problem with colors like the dark metallics, they're very difficult to keep clean, and your reconditioning costs on a regular basis become an issue.
Okay.
But cars look good in black all the time.
So your neutrals, always a safe bet.
The predictable colors. You know, you need to be a little bit conservative in terms of your choice of color. What you want to do is you want to buy a car that's as easy to resell as you possibly can. When you drive into the dealer, you don't want him to go, oh, you know, I can't believe you bought a burgundy one. I can't believe you bought a green
Here's another one.
Absolutely, here's another one. Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
avoid the garish colors.
All right. So found a car.
Yep.
Got a color. Need to watch when I bring my car in. I need
Yes.
to remember that I'm now selling my car to
Absolutely.
the dealer.
Yeah.
It needs to be as clean and
Yes.
neat and perfect as possible, with all my
Indeed.
ducks in the row.
Yes.
All the paperwork, all the history,
Yeah.
except for my bumps and scrapes.
Bumps and scraps are acceptable.
that.
It's a used car to a degree.
To-
But again, don't overcapitalize on reconditioning your
Okay.
car when you go to the dealer. They can do it for a lot less
Well,
than you.
I'm talking about didn't watch where I was going.
Yeah, no, no.
Scraped into a
We're talking about the invoices for previous accidents.
bumped into
Yana.
a parking lot pole.
Be taking those out.
Alright.
Be taking those out.
Offer to purchase.
Offer
Make
to
sure
purchase
that
with that, yeah.
everything's written down.
Beautifully so, yeah. And in a
Right.
language that's understandable
language-
to both you and the dealer.
Okay, so I know what's going on. He knows what's going on, and we
Absolutely.
both agree.
Absolutely.
Right, and then good to go.
Pretty much good to go. I mean, you've done your homework now.
Yeah.
So you've taken all the variables out of the equation. You understand the running cost of your car now because you knew the engine size, so you can work out the consumption. You know what kind of mileage you do on an annual basis. This is also quite important. You know, what people forget is they look at a car with 80, 90, 100,000 Ks on. That's fine. You know, just about every car on the market today is not a toaster. You know, when the warranty expires, it doesn't mean the car's going to stop running. When you're buying a car that's come off a full service plan, you know it's been serviced by the agents from day 1 to day 365 or whatever the period may be, and it's only been serviced by the agents. The reason it's important is only agent-approved parts have been fitted to that vehicle. There's no pirate parts, and there's no dodgy parts.
Those dodgy parts that I have a cousin that knows someone that
Who
can get a
can
part
get
of
me
a dump.
a cheap disc or a cheap brake pad or whatever the story may be. So all of the parts that have been fitted to that car in its first 100,000 kilometers have only been manufacturer approved.
So it's actually really simple. It's not.
It's not rocket science.
None of this is rocket science.
Have a look at some of the people in this industry. None of them are NASA employees, I have to tell you.
Shit. And there you have it, straight from this horse's mouth. Everything that you need to know about choosing, pricing, and buying a second-hand car without all that other crap that comes with it. So it seems like you're not so dodgy after all,
Thank
Nick.
you very much.
So for more candid advice candid advice on the 5 things that you need to know when buying a secondhand car, visit Surf4Cars on their Google Plus page and use the hashtag Surf4Answers, and they'll gladly answer all of your questions. I know they've helped me. So I'm off to get the car that I really want. And thanks to Nick, I know I won't be taken for a ride. Well, not the bad kind of ride anyway. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Surf4Cars.
C-O-Z-A.
Surf4